Hello everybody and welcome back to World of Warships Legends. My name is Spartan Elite 43 and tonight we are taking our very first look at the new Tier 8 American Battleship, Minnesota. So, with that being said, let's take a look at our commander. We're running William Sims with Azure Lane Scharnhorst and Paolo de Revel as our inspirations. We are running Flammable Cannoneer, gyrating drill bits, marksmanship, reaching out XXL, and Will to Rebuild. Now, we are running Main Battery Mod 2, Steering Gears Mod 2, Concealment System Mod, and Artillery Plotting Room. Okay, we are fully upgraded, obviously. Wouldn't show you guys something without it. I keep forgetting to put the freaking spotter plane on, so I'm going to do that now. I have forgotten in every single freaking battle so far to put this on, so I'm going to go ahead and put that on there. We're running the Italian Unity flag because it kind of looks like a Spartan helmet if you just squint just right. And then we made a permanent camo from the Too Hot to Handle because, let's be real, it's going to get spicy up in here. All right? So, for survivability, you got 79,500 hit points, which is roughly 10,000 more hit points than you get in the Kansas. We're going to make a lot of comparisons to the Kansas. Why? Because this is a bigger Kansas. I'll talk about it. Torp damage is the same. Torp damage reduction, same as 40%. Artillery is exactly the same. It's got the same 180-degree turn time, the same reload time, the same guns. It's all identical. So, nothing changes there. The secondaries are also exactly the same. You got the same 16 American 127mm Mark 32s. So everything is the same as the Kansas, okay? HE shell maximum damage 5,700 with a 36% chance to set fires. AP shell maximum damage 14,080 for your main guns. And reload time of 32.2 with a 28.6 180-degree turn time. The biggest difference between this and the Kansas with the guns is that this gets a larger firing range. 19.9 kilometers with this build, and that's without running a booster. If I run an epic booster on this thing, it's going over 20 kilometers easy. So, I don't particularly think you need to run anything over 20 kilometers, but if you want to go for it, go for it. Secondaries, obviously 1,800 maximum HE shell damage with a 5% chance to set fires. Same for pretty much every American battleship that has secondaries. All right, 20mm Oerlikon Mark 20s for your AA defense. You get 37 times 2, which would be 74. 74 of those doing 226 damage per second, but they only reach out to 2 kilometers. Then you got the 40mm Bofors Mark IIs that reach out to 3.5 kilometers, doing 254 damage per second, and you get 64 of those. And then you have the 127mm Mark 32 dual-purpose secondaries. You get 16 of those, doing an extra 121 damage per second, reaching out to 5 kilometers. So AA is pretty solid, but not the best. Maneuverability, maximum speed is terrible, 22.5 knots. It's even slower than the Kansas. I know you didn't think that that was possible, but it is. Turning circle, 700 meters is fantastic, but the rudder shift, not particularly amazing, 14.2 seconds with this build. I didn't pay attention to the Kansas, but I feel like the Kansas's rudder shift is 12 seconds, but I could be wrong. We'll double check that here in a second. Concealment, though, 13.7 is worse than the Kansas, okay? So keep that in mind. This thing is more visible than the Kansas. Kansas has 12.8. This is 13.7. It's almost a full kilometer more detectable. 11.5 kilometers by air. 2 is always guaranteed. 15.3 kilometers smoke firing penalty. So before we get into that, let's just check out the Kansas real quick for that little tidbit for the maneuverability. Yeah, it's 13.4. So I was close. I thought it was 12 something, but it's apparently just about a second faster. So I was correct. Who'd have thunk it? I know something about American battleships. Woohoo! It's almost like that's what I do. We already did concealment, so now on to the armor. This thing looks like it's very, very well armored. Looks can be deceiving, much like the Kansas. She's thick, don't get me wrong. But the biggest change in armor from the Kansas, you get a little bit of extra belt armor up here at the front. It doesn't extend all the way to the bow. It is 32 millimeters, so Yami will still punch straight through your bow. But there is a little bit of chunk of pretty thick armor right there that may or may not keep you from getting citadeled if you're in a turn or coming around an island. It's one of those weird things. But this thing's going to get chunked, okay? Just like Kansas, if you're taking a lot of hits, you're going to get chunked. You can effectively angle against pretty much everything as long as they don't shoot your superstructure, because as you can see, it is massive. So your superstructure absolutely gets chunked. But if you're up close and personal, like I like to be, and you angle effectively, you'd be surprised what you can take in this thing. And then with the decent rudder shift and the fact that you have the turrets, I mean, the broadside potential of this thing is just as devastating as the Kansas. It is disgusting, okay? You do not want to give this thing a broadside ever in any ship. So keep that in mind. If we strip away all the extra armor, you will notice that it is not a turtleback. Obviously, it's American. We don't really do that sort of thing. But it is a submerged citadel, which is big, meaning you're very unlikely to be citadeled unless you're turning hard because, you know, you raise that citadel out of the water, or they go through the bow side plating or stern side plating. Okay? So keep that in mind. If you're coming around an island or you get caught by somebody coming around an island, you could potentially take citadels through the front or rear side plating into that citadel. It is a very long citadel, and there is very little little potential there. This is one of those ships that could potentially get citadeled straight through the bow by the Yami. I don't know that it's going to happen, but it's a potential thing to pay attention to. So if you go up against Yami, like I say with everything, show the skirt. Lift the skirt just a little bit. Just go, okay, here's my big, juicy, flat broadside. But it's not actually a big, flat, or big, juicy, flat broadside. You're angled. And a lot of times that will save your bacon. So keep that in mind. Okay? Moving on. Agile, above average ability to change direction. For the tier, yes. Overall, not so much. Guns aplenty. A high number of guns allows for a lot of damage from a single salvo. That's what we already talked about. It is a Kansas broadside. If you give this thing a broadside, you will get obliterated. Trust. Okay? Also, just as effective as Kansas at farming superstructures. So if you get those shots, take them. Slow. She is below average maximum movement speed. She thick. Okay? She ain't exactly going through the water all slim and natural. Okay? She been eating cupcakes. And she's packing plenty of cake of her own. Minnesota, an interwar battleship design variant that underwent in-depth modernization in the 1940s, which significantly reinforced her torpedo protection and AA armament. If it significantly reinforced her torpedo protection, why does she have the exact same torpedo protection as the Kansas? Just a thought. Or is this exactly the same thing that it says for the Kansas? I don't know. But either way, let's check this thing out. It's a Kansas. She's thick. She just dummy thick. Like, y'all already know. You got all the Bofors up there. You got plenty of AA pretty much everywhere on the ship. It's got decent AA, but I wouldn't rely on it. At higher tiers, you're not going to be doing much with the AA. It's such short range that you're not going to shoot anything down until it's too late. So keep that in mind. But overall, I'm enjoying this thing so far, even though I haven't had a lot of great, amazing games. I've got a great one for you guys lined up. But I haven't had a lot of crazy games yet. But you guys already know it's just a matter of time. Give me some time. We will... Really? Why are you resetting my camera, Wargaming? Stop it. And with that being said, let's get to the gameplay. Alrighty, so we're going to be on Shattered. And we are going to run into a random person that you may have heard of once or twice. Look on our team in the Schlieffen. His name is Where Are You, Aaron? Where have I heard that name before? What are the odds? I mean, the odds are actually pretty good because we're all trying to make content right now. I haven't been to bed yet. I finished my UAD stream. I immediately jumped on to try to get the ships unlocked so that I could hurry up and get some videos so that I can get you a video as bright and early as possible so that you guys can see these things before anybody else. Because you guys are the best. And don't forget, we are on the path to 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So, if you're not already subscribed and you enjoy watching my Battleship videos and my other videos and pretty much everything that I do, then go ahead and punch that subscribe button. Be a part of something great. Now, Aaron and I just happened to not only spawn on the same team, but we spawned on the same side. And we're going to push up and try to support Aaron over here. And initially I was going to shoot through the middle, Repub was spotted going into the island, and there's nobody actually pushing the mid right now, so there's not a likelihood that we're actually going to get any spotting over there. Our DD is going to launch a whole bunch of single-fire torpedoes through the gap, and he's not really going to spot for us either. And that's going to leave it down to Aaron and I to try to pull something out of this. The destroyer is going to capture the base, though, so that's good. And then I think he doubles back around and tries to go into the B cap, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that at all. Then that's when the Yamato gets spotted. The destroyer does actually spot him. Aaron takes a shot at him, and I think he gets a much better shot than I do, because I hit the guy, and I do a pretty good chunk of damage, but only 4,600. Really wasn't a great hit by me. I think we may have hit his guns or something. Just didn't get quite the penetration that I was hoping for. I lied. We did 17,000 damage. I lied. I have no idea why it showed so off there. But you can see people are trying to crossfire us. Keep an eye on that middle cap as well. You're going to see that there's a destroyer that's going to try to get up in there and try to ruin our time. We take a shot at superstructure of the Yami because, obviously, we've done this before. This is nothing new. 7,070 damage. Now, I will say this. If you're used to the Kansas, if you enjoy the Kansas, you're going to enjoy the Minnesota. If you did not like the Kansas, you're not going to like the Minnesota. So keep that in mind. There's not a huge difference between the two ships, other than Minnesota is slower. Minnesota also has more hit points, and Minnesota also ends up with, you know, in my opinion, it seems to get pinned more often, but it just could be that we're up against the bigger boys again. And it's been a while since we've fought Yamis consistently in, you know, Kansas. But Conqueror is going to get spotted. I want you guys to keep an eye on this Conqueror, okay? Keep an eye on this Conqueror. This Conqueror sent me a message that said that I was a cheater after this match. So highly recommend that you guys pay attention to what happens during this match, and you guys let me know if I cheated. Alright? Or am I just a good player and I outplayed the guy? I'm leaning towards the latter. I mean, he's broadside on, he's begging for it, so we're going to go ahead and take a shot over the island, front guns only. We get very fortunate not to eat these torpedoes, plus they ran out of steam anyway, but 12,000 damage with just the front guns on a broadside of a Conqueror. It's almost like you should probably not just go full broadside in a Conqueror. It doesn't have armor to begin with, and when you're just flat broadside, you're just begging for it. Now here, Yami's going to be a pain in our neck for the rest of the game, pretty much. Conqueror, however, he's going to be a doof. And Repub is going to try to YOLO us, and it's not going to go in his favor. Alright, remember what I said about don't go broadside to this thing? It's just like the Kansas. If you go broadside to this, especially at any sort of close range, you can kiss your hit points goodbye in a hurry. One salvo from this thing is enough to annihilate your hit points. And Repub's about to find out. Front guns, straight through the bow side plating. Blop. 15,000 damage right there. Just front guns only. Now, we unfortunately have to try to stay angled here. They do knock out one of our guns. We're going to go ahead and damage con that because I need my guns. And you can see I'm looking over to Aaron to see his health situation. And he doesn't really have, like, he's already been touched by the Yami a couple of times. So, not ideal. But he's actually going to try to push up too. Now here, once again, Conqueror's flat frickin' broadside, begging for it, so we use the rear turrets of justice and truth on him, and we smash him once again for over 10,000 damage. And then Repub does the thing that I've told you guys you can't do, which is go broadside again. This time we're able to punch through his cheek and get a citadel right through the base of the turret. Like, that's the cheek shot I've hit on the freaking Repub so many times up close. Like, it's one of the rare weaknesses of the Repub. Repub is so nasty when it stays angled, but if you're not angled, you can actually obliterate them. Now, Aaron is pushed forward, he's got torpedoes out, and he's going to be able to take down the Repub, no problem. This is why you don't try to go straight for the streamers, right? Just because you recognize somebody doesn't mean it's a good idea to YOLO them. And if you do YOLO them, you better know what you're doing, because otherwise you're going to be made you're going to be made to look like a fool, okay? Speaking of looking like a fool, have we forgot about the Conqueror? Unfortunately, Aaron is going to go down, and Aaron made sure to send me a message after this battle that said, hey, by the way, make sure you let everybody know that I only pushed forward because it was you. Doesn't that just warm your little heart? Does me. I don't know. I got all the warm and fuzzy tingling feelings when he told me that. I was like, "Aw." That only makes up for the 970 bajillion times that they left me hanging to dry. But, you know, it's a start. But watch what we're about to do to this Conqueror. First of all, we saw the enemy Ruprecht sneaking around. He's got no health, so I'm not too worried about charging him. So we're going to just kind of dodge him and get ready to attack this Conqueror. Attacking this Conqueror was the thing that we were going to do from the get-go. Now, notice that I actually have a catapult fighter, and that's the reason I'm keeping this guy spotted right now. The whole reason he's spotted is because of my catapult fighter. Because I made a mistake at the beginning and forgot to put my spotter plane on, I actually have the ability to spot this guy for myself. And, once again, he goes full goddarn broadside in front of what he knows has already blapped the crap out of him. Sure enough, he gets spotted, we take the shot, and the rest is history. Did I cheat? No. I outplayed him. Actually, more fair, he outplayed himself. Dude literally put himself in the worst possible position consistently over and over and over again. There is no one he can blame for his death other than him. There's no cheat codes. There's no scripts. This is just straight 1 versus 1, and you got caught. Alright? Over and over again. So, take your medicine. We've all been there. We all get caught. I complain about it all the time, too. I get it. But I'm not sending messages to people calling them cheaters. Alright? I understand when I get outplayed. And I really understand when I make a big mistake. And I call that out just as much as anybody. How many times do you hear me on stream say that I'm stupid? Like, this is a stupid idea. Blap. Oh my god, I can't believe this happened. And then I start blaming teammates afterwards. Let's be real. It's just the way it is. But no. We're going to continue to push up this flank. Why? Because look at the enemy's positioning right now. As much as I want to go into the B cap, our destroyer's there. He's capturing the cap, so we don't have to go there. And as slow as I am, trying to go into the center, I would have went all the way around the island to begin with. Now, my thought process here was that the Yami was going to come around the island to try to regroup with his team, and I would be in a position to catch him as he comes around the island for that dev strike or whatever health he has left would disappear very quickly. That was the thought process. Meantime, I'm going to be looking at crossfires across the map on these guys who I haven't had to fire at, so they're not necessarily paying attention to me, right? So if I can get a potential shot here, now, obviously, an angled Stalingrad at these kinds of ranges, not the best choice. So I'm like, okay, if he's going to turn to go around that island, maybe, just maybe. But no, he's not. He's gonna stay angled pretty much the whole way. I think we do take a shot, maybe. Nope, never mind. I lied. We don't. But Alaska's going to push up. He's going to go for the Yami on the right side of the island. I'm going to stick to the left side of the island just in case Yami comes out that side. And I'm going to have a position to take advantage of the cruisers. And that's when the Yami decides to come back. And I'm about to watch all of this man's hit points disappear. Now, he goes flat broadside to a Yami, which is a brave strategy. Very few ships get away with this. Alaska's one of them. Alaska, for whatever reason, just has one of those citadels that just does not like to be touched. And it gets away with some absolute atrocities. And it actually, to his credit, does manage to stick it out and kill the Yami. So here we have an Alaska who's not going to be quite so lucky as our Alaska, as I send 12 American armor-piercing shells straight down, and I get one full citadel, taking all of his hit points. That's going to keep him out of the fight, and maybe saves our Alaska from getting absolutely annihilated by this crossfire. Now you can see I'm looking at Stalingrad. At this point, I can't help with the Yami. I'm resigned to the fact that the Yami or the Alaska, one of them will survive. I'm hoping it's the Alaska. And turns out, it is going to be the Alaska. I was hoping that I would have a good chance to hit this Stalingrad while he's broadside, but he's paying attention, to his credit. Again, this comes down to people paying attention. This was a losable game all the way through. Right up until the very end. But pay attention to the Alaska and what he's about to do as well. Borgonia, we catch him broadside. This is potential dev. Like, we should kill this man right here. Unfortunately, we don't. In true Spartan fashion, we leave him with just enough to get away. You gotta love it. Stalingrad comes in. He's already angled. So we're trying to angle against him. You can see he's smart. He doesn't shoot at the belt. He shoots straight for superstructure. Gets solid pins. The Borgonia lands some good hits on us as well. And here, this shot, I get robbed. I mean, we've had pretty good RNG up to this point, but I get absolutely robbed on this shot. This should be a kill shot on that Borgonia, and it just isn't. And once again, I leave him with just enough to get away. Now you can see, I'm trying to get my freaking Alaska to come over here. Part of this is my fault for kind of continuing to sail, but he was in my will to rebuild range, but he backed off of the island. And that allowed him to back out of my will to rebuild range. And when I'm up against some people that actually know what they're doing and are trying to shoot my superstructure, that is what you call not ideal. Now, here you can see, rather than shooting the bow-in cruisers that are angled, there's nothing I can do there. I want to try to help get rid of somebody, so I go for the Borgonia in the background, and we do manage to smack him and take him down. Unfortunately, we go down in the process. But 175,000 damage in our, first look at this ship is not bad. And again, I feel like just like Kansas, I'm going to have multiple 200k games in this thing over time. It's just going to take time. They are slightly different. They're a little bit different. You can see, I do get into chat and I'm like, dude, you really screwed me by backing off of that island. Like, if he had just stayed closer to the island initially, like, I know what he's doing. And he ends up doing just fine. He ends up winning. We end up winning this game, and he ends up finishing off these guys, or at least damaging them to get them ready to be finished off. But it's just one of those situations where, as a player, I'm like, oh my god, he's right on the edge, and it's one of the most frustrating things. Like, when you have will to rebuild, and somebody just, like, parks right on the edge of it, and they're like, I could be there, I could be recovering hit points right now, but no, I'm not going to. Because if he managed to stay in my will to rebuild, there is no doubt in my mind that I managed to kill both the Alaska, the Bourgogne, and the Stalingrad. Just by default. Like, I don't think they would have enough DPM to kill me and outkill my will to rebuild. Which, again, I don't understand why will to rebuild hasn't been nerfed yet. Like, will to rebuild is broken. But if it's in the game, I'm going to use it because if anybody's going to have an advantage from it, it might as well be me. But, yeah. Either way, Alaska's going to actually go down here. This is a very interesting battle, though Stalingrad absolutely whiffs here. I don't know what he was aiming at, but he was way off. Like, I have no idea. But Alaska, once again, going straight for superstructure, knows to go for the gun's superstructure. And now he's going to try to rotate out and get the rear gun involved, but it's a little too late. He's going to get touched by the rear turret. That's going to take him down, and then unfortunately, the secondaries are going to finish him off. But fortunately, our destroyer manages to finish off the cruiser at the exact same time. So we end up having a pretty solid game. 175,000 damage, high cal, second on the team, Daring coming in tops. And then Aaron, a respectable 2,000 base XP as well. And again, the Alaska played very well. I'm not hating on the Alaska at all. The Alaska played a very, very good game. Was right there with us the entire way. Killed the Yami. Fantastic player. I'm not hating on him at all. Don't think that. It's just one of those moments that's frustrating when somebody, like, gets out of your will to rebuild just when you need it the most. But let me know what you guys think. Are you guys excited? What is my first opinion on this thing? I think it's fantastic, but I love the Kansas, so this just makes sense for me. And if you like what I'm doing, punch the like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you in the next video.